Greetings and good Thursday night to you, one and all in the Alpha Quadrant. Bill Smith here alongside the Connecticut School of Broadcasting legend, Dan Davidson, for another episode of Thursday Night Geeks presented by Fansets. Dan, I don't know if you know this. This is the premier live stream from Trek Geeks. And actually, it's the only live stream from Trek Geeks. So we're winning the category.
I like it. It's great to be here. Good to see you, man. Little break last week. Back at it tonight. Always good to see you. Always good to see all of our awesome listeners and watchers joining as we're beginning a fun night of discussion here on TNG.
TNG.
I like it.
Of course, Dan, before we get going, I must ask you, what are you drinking?
All right, let me reach for this. See, I got a lot of guff from Frakesy a couple weeks ago, and I had
Not just Frakesy, it was the entire day.
He started it, and I was going to say, and then everybody followed suit. But I've got something a little different tonight. It is apple flavored, though. Well, check that out. Nice green. This is an apple Cosmo. So if you've ever had a Cosmo, Cosmos are awesome.
They are,
and I love apple. So I did some research, and I'm like, is there an apple Cosmo? And it's an apple Cosmo. It's apple flavored vodka with the sour apple schnapps or decupers or whatever it's called. The cranberry juice really makes it amazing. It's very crisp. It's very appley flavored. It's fresh flavored. If that makes any sense, it's hard to describe. But the watermelon, the cranberry juice in the drink really makes it. And I'm shocked at how good it was with the cranberry juice. So I'm a big fan of it. And I'm going to, this may be my summer drink, actually.
I'm only disappointed that you're not having another Wilford Brimley, which I think was my comment of that particular episode, by the way. I just want to throw that out there.
I could have one later.
But you could also have anaphylactic shock later. Let's just be honest.
True. It's really, I can't describe enough how that cranberry juice really makes the rest of the drink come out with that apple flavor. It's awesome. I love it.
Well, I am actually drinking something tonight. So it's been a couple of weeks since my last dose of Zepbound. It's because of a shipping issue at the manufacturer. It's supposed to ship tomorrow. So by the time I have it, it'll be about 2.5 weeks since I've had my last shot. So to that end, I am having a Hurricane, but it is in my Star Trek 2009 glass.
Wow.
And fun fact, Star Trek 2009 premiered on this date. Dan, do you know what year?
2009?
2009. Winner, chicken dinner.
We're old. It's amazing that this actually, Ross, has no Crown Apple whiskey in it. But it's fantastic. It's really, really good. So
I'm all for it. Well, Dan, I have to fess up to something.
Oh boy.
I don't know if you know this. I'm a little embarrassed to admit it.
Yeah, we gotta take
but I have reached peak adulthood. This is me riding my brand new John Deere riding lawnmower. That's my yard. That's my car.
Yeah.
It's my wife's car. I have become a full-on adult, and I am now mowing the lawn with a riding lawnmower.
Welcome to the club. I don't have one right now, but riding lawnmowers may quite possibly be the best invention of mankind. So congratulations, and I hope you have fun with it.
Namaste. I have to tell you that. So my dad had a riding lawnmower when I was growing up. I was not allowed to use it. In fact, I was not allowed to mow the lawn unless his precious riding lawnmower was broken.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we had a giant yard at our house in Guilford, New Hampshire. So that means I would have to use a push mower to do the whole thing. And it was not self-propelled, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So the entire time I'm riding that lawn tractor, I'm thinking, F you, Dad.
It's funny. Back when I was growing up, I was responsible for doing the lawn. Dad had a riding lawnmower, and when he didn't do it, it was my responsibility. And for years, I just had a regular propelled one, but it was a walking one. But then we got a riding one. But outside of riding a riding lawnmower to do the lawn, I'm not sure if you remember where I lived when I was growing up on Browning in Nashua. It's very hilly.
Yep.
And my best friend lived not too far away, but a good distance away. And from where I was, it was all downhill to get to his house on my bike, like 3 or 4 different streets with hills. But that meant it was all uphill coming back. And that sucked as a kid. So what I used to do, we having, the weekend, you're a teenager, your friend's going to come over, you're going to play Nintendo 8-bit, you're going to have a sleepover, you're going to party, have, just fun as teenagers. I would take Dad's riding lawnmower and I would ride it to Dave's house to pick him up. Now, picture a riding lawnmower going down a steep hill with really bad brakes.
And unfortunately, it's led us to you still being on this live stream. I have one more caught in action photo. These are photos from my Ring cameras on my property. So these are my property. I have reached the point where I think I've assimilated to the South.
Oh, I can't
so
wait.
The other morning, Star Wars Day, in fact, I was caught by my Ring camera taking Isabella out in my underwear.
Why are you
That's
sharing
me.
that with everybody?
That's a flashlight. That's Isabella right here. That sort of dark shadow. I am in my underwear, but I had enough sense of mind to put on a Star Wars t-shirt, which you really can't tell. But I said, well, I'm going outdoors. I should throw on a t-shirt. Never thought about the fact that I only had my skivvies on.
Well, at least you had those on, because if you didn't, then this would be a big problem.
Ross says the town he works in, they have people that ride their mower to the Dollar General all the time. And I believe that now that I've seen Dollar General, quite honestly. Nothing against that fine establishment. So I apologize. Well, it's a good thing I have the shirt on, or else it would look like a whiteout in May in North Carolina.
Well, see, what's good is in this picture, it actually looks like you have pants. So you can't really tell that you don't, which is probably a good thing. Don't zoom in. I don't care.
Oh, it's blurry. You couldn't tell anyway. This is zoomed in. And that's blurry as hell.
Okay, good. Thank you.
But yeah, so there you have it.
We had a bobcat on our Ring camera 2 nights ago, so I guess that's cool.
I assume you don't mean the construction equipment. You mean the actual
animal, the feral animal. Yes.
You're absolutely a feral animal. Your face is a feral animal.
Thank you very much.
That's about it. I will be signing photos of me in my underwear at Star Trek Las Vegas.
Yes, you have to do that.
Yeah, in August at the Trek Geeks booth.
I love it.
In fact, you have to pay me to not give you a photo. That's how this works.
I think that that's probably a good idea.
All right, we're going to take a brief transitionary break, and we're going to be right back to talk about the greatest villains of Star Trek, Dan. I'm just jazzed for this conversation.
Boom.
Right back at you in just a minute. Dan, here we are.
Hey, buddy.
You're still laying down the boogie down there.
Digging that 80s vibe, man.
That's a good transition. Whoever set that up is pretty brilliant, I want to say.
Can't wait to meet him someday.
Yeah, I know. I've actually been down in North Carolina for a year now.
It's amazing. It really
was
is.
A year on April 28th that we moved into the house. So I haven't been back to New Hampshire at all.
That's good.
I'm out of here. Dan, there was an article this week on Screen Rant by John Oricola. I apologize if I butchered your last name, John. Wonderful writer who does a lot of positive coverage for Trek Talks and writes about a lot of Star Trek things. And one of the articles this week was about Star Trek's greatest villains, and he had a list of about 15. And you and I started thinking about it. It's like, well, what are our top 5 each? And that's kind of how this episode was born tonight.
It was.
Did you have any criteria as far as putting your list together?
At first, I'm like, well, are we gonna talk about which of the 15 in the article that John wrote? Are we gonna pick from those? And then I'm like, no, my favorite villains. Let's just go with whatever the favorite villains are. So there was no real criteria that I could think of. I thought of all kinds of ones. Just down to just the guy who played the Dowd. In TNG. Could that be a villain? I thought of him, even though he's not really a villain. But that made me think there's no criteria for this. Whoever we think are the best villains and the reasons for them is something that we'll get into with each pick, because there are a variety of reasons why different villains could be rated the way they are based on certain criteria.
We have no law to fit your crime. No, you do, Jean-Luc. It's genocide. Okay. It's fucking genocide. Murder, even, we could go with that. 4 billion, wherever it is, 4 billion counts of murder.
Destroyed the Hoosnock.
Yeah, I destroyed all the Hoosnock. Well, I mean, he may have done us a favor. We don't know.
Yeah.
I've heard the Hoosnock were great at parties, though.
It's the name of the alien race that they don't even deserve to be around.
That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I thought what we do is I flipped a coin backstage and you lost. So that means you get to go first.
Okay.
So we'll do your 5 and then we'll take a brief fan sets break.
Okay.
And then we'll do my 5. How does that sound?
That's good. I thought we'd do 5, 5, 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, whatever.
No.
But no, I think that's great. That's a great idea.
So, and be prepared to defend your choices.
Absolutely.
You may receive tough questions from our amazing viewers. You may receive bullshit questions from me, and that's fine. But in any event, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to watch your list come to fruition.
I am looking forward to talking about it, and here it comes.
Look at this. We get this high class sort of
Dan's greatest villains.
Dan's greatest villains. Dan, coming in at number 5 for you is Vadic from Star Trek Picard season 3.
This was probably one I'm like, is this going to go over well? Is this a good choice? I wasn't really sure, but the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, she'd be a good one to start off the top 5 villains because of what happened in Picard season 3. So she's number 5 for me.
What is it about Vadic that brings her into that top 5? Because I mean, she's probably one of the most recent villains.
Yep.
I mean, with all the villains there are to pick from, why Vadic?
Couple of reasons. One, she is batshit crazy. I mean, she has gone through a lot of trauma, as to similar to Odo, with people, experimenting on her as a change. For those, spoiler alert, she's a changeling. For those who have not seen Picard season 3,
damn it.
Yeah. So, she's been through a lot of trauma. With the experimentation, she has lost her marbles, which is bad when you're dealing with a crazy person who's a villain. That's bad. But when you have the firepower of that ship that she commanded with that portal weapon, which is one of the most amazing weapons that we've seen in Star Trek, that makes her pretty formidable. And that's why I decided, and she's in league with the Borg. I mean, hello. I mean, so there are parts of her character where I'm like, but all in all, when you look at the danger that she posed, not only to the crew, but to the entire quadrant and everything that happened in Picard season 3, I thought she was a fantastic villain. I did not like the way she was killed, but I thought she was great as one of the big villains in Star Trek history.
So did you see her kind of as like a hired hand of sorts? Because that's kind of how I envisioned her. I mean, the Borg essentially wanted her to come into the plan.
Yeah.
At the end of she doesn't factor into the plan. She's just, I guess I kind of lose it. Is she designed to be a diversion from everything else? Because the way she kind of fits in with the Borg just never made sense with me.
It didn't make sense, but a lot of times through most of the season, we didn't even know who she was answering to or what was actually going on, which made it even more scary. Is she just crazy and she's got a vendetta about Picard and is looking to kill the son and this, that, and the other thing? After you found out what was going on, I do remember the one time where she was communicating with whoever was the boss, and she like lifted up her sleeve and cut into herself, and like this creature came out and she talked to it. Thought that was really weird. I know that at times there was speculation of whether or not it was some kind of reincarnated Gul Dukat as a Pa Wraith or something like that. But when you found out that she was just a pawn in an even greater scheme, it really didn't take away anything from me as to how she was as a villain. Now, I have a feeling that the Borg might be somewhere on our list further down the road. But when you look at what was done with her to be the method of which they try to get that DNA, to be able to do that, the Borg to be able to pull off that long con, makes her a pretty important cog in the wheel. So, or a wheel in the, I don't know what the phrase is, but I'll go with it.
Cog in the machine.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody watching, I mean, feel free to comment on your favorite villain or how you feel about Vadic or any of the other villains we bring up tonight. And of course, your comments will appear on the screen.
And I gotta say, Miss Plummer is fantastic in this role. I mean, she's crazy, and So I Married an Axe Murderer, which is one of my wife and I's favorite movies. It's the first movie we ever watched together. But she is over the top when you compare her to what she was like as Rose in So I Married an Axe Murderer, and her craziness. And I didn't even really realize it was her for an episode or two, because the makeup was so good and she looked so different, and she just it was her voice that did it. The voice is something with that character also that makes you go, I don't want anything to do with her. She's nuts. So, and that's an important aspect of why she's on my list so high, is because of that. She's gone. She's out there. She's like Pluto.
It's fair to say that almost every role Amanda Plummer has played has been out there. Because I think, and this is not to denigrate against Amanda, I think she herself is, to Kramerize it,
Yes.
I think she's a little eccentric, I think is the word I'm looking for.
Good way to put it. Yep.
Okay. To me, Vadic is a problematic character because we know that this sect of the changelings exists. We know that they don't really care about, the armistice that was signed during Deep Space Nine at the end of the Dominion War. And they're just out there doing what they want to exact revenge. I wish that there had been more explanation on what was going on with the Great Link, what was going on with Odo, even though, of course, Renee passed some time ago. I think that that's a mistake. In that sense, but I can appreciate what you say about Vadic.
I think that there's a possibility, maybe in the novels, there could be incredible backstory telling about Vadic, from her capture, what happened with how she got involved with the Borg for the big reveal at the end of Picard season 3. She's a problematic character. There's not really a lot of history with her, but she's able to cause a lot of problems in a very short amount of time in Picard. And I gotta say, like I said, part of the reason why she's such a formidable villain is because of the technology that she has in her hands to use, and that portal weapon is just unbelievable.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, the Shrike itself is a pretty badass ship. So,
and the noise that the Shrike made whenever it was on screen, that percussion, whatever the instrument was that played when that ship was being shown from space, was eerie, and I loved it, every second of it.
This is only Dan's first pick, and this is the number 5. So there's 4 more spots to go.
Come on.
Really? It's there's still plenty of time to see Space Hitler. So, and then Joel, I don't disagree. I really don't. The Holodeck and Rick Berman are really big Trek villains. But
I didn't put Kurtzman in there.
I didn't put you to put that in there. Burley says that Kai Wynn from DS9.
That's a good choice. Yeah,
that is a great choice.
That's a great choice.
Well, Dan, let's go ahead and continue on with your next pick.
Hey, Burley.
And that is Kai Wynn Adami from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Dan, a lot of people call Kai Wynn Space Karen. That's really not fair, because Karen wants to see the manager, and Kai Wynn is the manager.
Yeah.
So, what is it about Kai Wynn that really made you put her at the number 4 spot on your list?
She is so fake. I mean, every time she opens her mouth, you know that she's just oozing lies about how she really feels. The amount of disdain that she had for Sisko because he was chosen to be the emissary, and she's never even, they've never talked to me. How many times does she say that during the course of the times that Louise Fletcher graces us on screen as Kai Wynn? Well, they've never spoken to me. Well, maybe because you're a crazy bitch. I think that's one of the things that is what makes her such a good villain, though, is because it's all the way that she wraps it all around it to be all about her is really what solidifies her as a character that you just love to hate. She is deliciously evil, as Burley says, and at the beginning of when we first start seeing her in DS9, she's annoying and you don't like her, and she's just, oh my god, I just want to punch her right in her
Right in her what?
Face.
That's better.
I was trying to think of the line from Step Brothers, but suckhole. That's what I was punch her right in the suckhole. That's what I wanted to
one
say.
of these right in her suckhole.
Right in her suckhole, yeah. But then with what she does, she's devoted her entire life to the prophets. Everything has to do with the celestial temple and the prophets. And what does she do? In 2 seconds, she flips over and becomes Wraith worshiping. And it's amazing to see that she will go to whatever level she can to achieve her goal. And that's what makes her a great villain.
That's fair. I mean, there's something there about, religion and sort of the religious, government that exists as a part of Bajor on Deep Space Nine. I mean, it kind of does and it kind of doesn't. I think that's really the thing. But she has a lot of influence. If it's not for Kai Wynn, I mean, Bajor doesn't get into half the trouble it does, quite frankly. And honestly, she's power hungry, and I think that's ultimately what leads her to, whatever Dukat's name was as a Bajoran, and the Pa Wraith. I think that I think that one of her defining characteristics is she thrives on the adoration of others. And here comes, what was his name, Angel or something like that.
Angel Tanan.
Thank you. Yep. Here comes Angel, who essentially wants to get with her, to manipulate her, right? And does.
Ratchet it up with Ratchet.
So many comments. That's the orb of ew right there. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Nice. Yep.
Thank you. And I mean, what greater type of admiration is there for a religious icon is to truly be loved. And I think that she thought she was loved until the deception was revealed.
Right.
And at that point, she had what came to her coming to her.
And wasn't it amazing how ruthless and vindictive she became when she was studying the book, and then Dukat trying to look at it and becoming blinded, and she thought it was funny, and it's amazing, the quest for power, no matter how pure at heart you think you are, is always something that's going to cause problems. And she's a perfect example of power hungry causing as many problems as possible throughout her entire career. Ever since she shows up, she's dealing with issues because she can't handle the fact that she's not where she wants to be.
Well, and because the emissary is stealing her juice.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, she wants to be the most important person on Bajor. And now all of a sudden, here's this human who's the emissary to the prophets. Unthinkable.
Right.
Yeah.
Love. And you know what? Let's say it. Louise Fletcher, Oscar winner on Deep Space Nine, and she was fantastic in that role. She was supposed to be at a Vegas convention a few years ago, and I was so happy and excited she had to cancel. And that was very disappointing. But she was great.
Wow, Avery Brooks is canceled on you. Louise Fletcher canceled on you.
Yeah.
Wow, you are a horrible good luck charm.
That's all right. I got you forever.
Oh God. So Dan, that's going to take us to your number 3 pick.
Top 3. Here we go.
Top 3. This is a pick I like at this spot. A lot of value here. It's just like ESPN. We're talking draft talk here.
Yeah.
And this time you give us the Borg.
The Borg. Yeah. And I'm sure people are going, oh my God, the Borg's not number 1. No, the Borg would never be number 1 in my book. Too easy to know what they want, which is kind of a weird way to describe it. The Borg are maybe the most terrifying of villains that we've seen in Star Trek. But they don't get number 1 or number 2 for me, because it's the same. They're going to assimilate you. They want perfection, and they can defend themselves probably better than most aliens that we've seen in Star Trek. They are scary, they are brutal, but they're not layered. I guess that's a good way. They're not complicated, which still makes them a good villain, but not one of the best villains.
Your face is layered.
My face is complicated too.
Oh, so complicated.
Yep. So, I mean, a lot of people are probably going to be like, wow, that's kind of low. The Borg really got to be up there. I've always considered them terrifying, especially the first time we saw them. I mean, and like First Contact. And then we talked about how they became kind of wussified a little bit during Voyager, came back huge in Picard. And Picard season 3, if there's anything that would bump up my vote for the Borg, it's the patience of the Borg. They had this plan going for 30 years for what they did in Picard season 3, and they just sat and waited for everything to come into play. That's patience. That's tenacity. That's a long con. And
it is a long con. That's for sure.
It is a long con, and they came pretty damn close to getting what they wanted. Number 3 for me. That's as high as I could put them.
That's really interesting to me because, I mean, Vadic's certainly a big threat. I don't personally look at Kai Wynn as scary or terrifying. She's a politician, in religious garb. But I look at the Borg and, I think it's a completely different level. So this makes me interested to see what your numbers 2 and 1 are. Although Ross, here's a good point of order from Ross. Would Q be considered the ultimate villain? And he did update it after that. But what are your thoughts on Q? Because I'm going to tell you, he's not in my list.
He's not on my list. I don't think he's really ever been a villain. He's never done anything to our crew that has caused irreparable harm. I don't know. And look at how it ended. Look at how season 2 of Picard ended with Delancey or Picard and Q hugging and him, returning things to the way they're supposed to be and returning people who died and stuff like that. I've never really thought of him as a villain. Yes, he did introduce the Borg, and that is a huge thing. But Borg were going to get there anyway, eventually, as we saw in Enterprise. So it eventually would have happened. It just happened faster because of Q.
I've never looked at Q as a villain. He's a foible to Picard, perhaps a nuisance. But to me, he was never, he certainly wasn't Vatic level or Win level or definitely not Borg level. Yeah, it's like you said, they were going to meet the Borg anyway. Q just bumped up the introduction.
He sped it up. Yep.
Yeah.
He sped it up. Yeah.
And you cross the timelines and went all crazy with bringing up Enterprise, which happened before, and First Contact, of course, happens after.
But I love how they did that. That's something I'm not a huge retcon fan, but I've always loved how they all tied it together. How the First Contact thing, it had ramifications and was shown in an episode of Enterprise. I've always loved that. I've always loved what they did, and I disagree with Ross. I thought that was a great episode to tie it all together. And also, yeah, it was fan service, but it was something that I thought that worked. I thought that episode was really good. What is it? Regenerate? Was that the name of it? Regeneration? Something like that.
Sure. I don't have a problem. Fan service exists because of fans. I mean, I don't have a problem. I don't think fan service is a negative, even if it is fan service. All kinds of things happen as sort of a payoff to, the people who kept this franchise going or the people who love it and keep it relevant. So, it was regeneration. According to Garcia. Thank you.
Yeah.
Garcia, our instant fact checker.
And bring up FK. Yes. Excellently stated. They were later overused. They weren't overused in Picard, I don't think, but they were overused in Voyager. That's something that I've always been very vocal about. I don't like how much they were in Voyager, and I don't like how they were represented in Voyager.
We're going to disagree on this, you and I. And I'm going to talk more about this later. Hint, hint.
Okay.
Nudge, nudge.
I like it. Nice.
And I'm going to bring up a couple of examples to defend my honor and my answer.
No, that's cool. I like it.
What little honor I have.
Yeah.
So Dan, you've got let's go back to the view screen here. You've got
They all look
Vatican
nice, though, don't they?
5. Whatever. They've got you've got Vatican 5. You've got Kai Wynn at 4. You've got the Borg at number 3. That means we're down to your number 2. Number 2. Pardon the juvenile humor.
Such a child.
And that's I'm really surprised by this one at number 2, and that is the Dominion.
The Dominion. And I'm going to be honest, I had a hard time deciding if they were going to be number 2 or number 1. You know how much I've always loved the Dominion. I think the Dominion is a perfect example of what the Borg are on a bigger level. I think they're much more villainous and scary than the Borg. The Borg, you know what you're going to get. They're going to assimilate you. You're going to become part of their collective, and that's it. The Dominion they're as shrewd as they can possibly be. Their whole idea of how the caste system is with the Dominion is amazing. They have their soldiers, the Jem'Hadar, absolutely amazing cannon fodder. They have the political bait of the Vorta and Wayun. He's right. I mean, he could have been a villain all his own, but I decided to throw them all in as one because the Dominion is an amazing force. They were the entire arc of 2/3 of Deep Space Nine. They, I think, are way more scary than the Klingons or the Romulans or any of the other alien races that we've seen in Star Trek. The Dominion, they're ruthless. They are conniving. They look what they did on Earth because of their ability to shapeshift. That is an aspect of the Dominion that is you cannot ignore, is how they're able to shapeshift and be able to infiltrate. Nobody knows who knows how far they could have gotten if it wasn't for Cisco. With what was going on at Earth. I mean, martial law is put in place, and all kinds of deceit and dishonesty and paranoia that runs throughout the planet. When they start doing what they're going to do, makes them a formidable enemy because of what they can do in here with the things that they do. Yeah,
I'm kind of. That's a great defense of that pick, by the way. Let me just state the obvious right there. If I look at these 4 things on the screen, one of them doesn't fit to me, and that's Kai Wynn. Vadic, a severe threat to the very safety and security of the Federation. You got the Borg, who, well, enough said. You've got the Dominion, who, citing every reason you just gave, and you've got essentially the Pope of Bajor.
Yeah.
That's not a criticism. It's just, it seems really weird that he is on this level.
Because of the way that she does her what she does. It's the what she does to get to where she wants to be is how many people would she have murdered, tortured, whatever, to get what she wanted. Yep. If somebody said you'll be able to be with the prophets and you'll be able to talk to them, if you do X, Y, and Z, she would do it in a second. That's because of what her mindset was. That's how important it was to have that power and to have that recognition and admiration and communication with the prophets. And that makes her very scary, because when somebody wants something that bad, it's like a trapped animal in a corner. You never know how they're going to react. And that's what makes her, and she just oozes just vileness. And that's one of the reasons why she's a favorite villain.
Okay.
Not so much because of the fear and the damage she could do if you look at the scope of what the Borg do and what the Dominion does, and what Vadic did with her ship and the portal weapon. But just as a villain, someone that you love to hate is a great villain. And everybody always says Kai Wynn is the best villain that you love to hate, more than probably any other villain. She gets that title all the time.
You're a villain we love to hate and hate to hate. I don't think there's genuine love there, though.
I don't really think there is.
Yeah. So Dan, I guess this leaves us with your numero uno pick. I'm ready here. I hope you are, and that is none other than Space
There he
Hitler
is.
himself, Gul Dukat.
My pal.
Holding your pal. If we learned anything from last time, it's that you'd love to hang out with Gul Dukat. I still
Yes, I
don't
would.
get that. But Gul
Want to see how
Dukat,
crazy he is. Yep.
but he's not crazy really till the end.
I don't necessarily agree with that. Because all through the occupation and all through everything that happens until he loses his mind, he thinks that everything he has done is right and for the right reasons. And if you're exterminating an entire species or trying to, and taking over their planet and doing all the things that he did when he was in charge of Bajor, you're not right. And he's not right. He is, and I'm going to give most of this credit to Mark Alimo. He is phenomenal in this role. I absolutely adore this actor for what he does with this character. He is so good at bringing through the evil and the complete no care for a life in the world of this character of Dukat. And even though there are times when you think that he's good and he's doing the right thing, when he was helping, during the Klingon War and stuff like that, no, there was always something going on inside his head. And then we had the episode Waltz, and then that everything just went completely off the rails after that.
I think he's a megalomaniac.
Absolutely.
The pre-Waltz time, but I don't think he's off his rocker crazy until Waltz. Honestly, it's from Waltz onward where you realize this is a man who's damaged beyond belief and very, very ill. Before that, I think he's just drunk with power. I don't look at that necessarily as him being crazy as much as I look at, he's addicted to being the guy and wants to. He's sadistic, he's masochistic, and he wants to inflict as much pain as possible.
But let's put it on this way.
That part makes him crazy.
I don't know if I agree 100% with that. And I don't want to get into the conversation because I know whenever people talk about this subject, people get all wigged out. But you call him Space Hitler, and you're right. We've called Hitler crazy for generations because he was. And if this is Space Hitler, he had the same type of thought process going on in his head about what he wanted to do and what he had done and all the atrocities that he committed on Bajor. He was cool for it because he was good with it because it was for the greater good of Cardassia. And you got to have a screw loose in order to be like, I don't care if I kill 100,000 people on this planet. There's some sanity issues when something like that happens and you're okay with it. But then, yes, absolutely. Everything that happens after Waltz, I mean, killing of Jadzia and everything that goes on with the Pa Wraiths and he slept with Kai Wynn. And I mean, just what else could go wrong? I mean, yeah. So, and as everybody knows, I have said it all through the 10 years we've been doing Trek Geeks. Gul Dukat is my favorite villain ever. I've thought that ever since Deep Space Nine aired. I don't think anything could ever top him as my top villain because of just how that character is portrayed, the way he looks, the uniform, taking over Cisco's office and the obsession with that baseball. Just every small little detail that happens with Gul Dukat is something that I am all for, and he's my guy. Number one guy.
So before we go to our fan sets break real quick, I just want to point out a trend here. So obviously we've got Vadic. That character has deep ties to Deep Space Nine because of the changelings, because of, the Dominion War. We have Kai Wynn, DS9. We have Dukat, DS9. We have the Dominion, DS9. Yes. And we have the Borg.
The Borg were not in DS9.
The Borg were not,
except for the
DS9.
very first episode. Yep. Yeah.
Well, but they're not part of Deep Space Nine, really.
Right.
You got to branch out, buddy.
I didn't do that on purpose, so I'll tell you that. Doesn't that tell you something, though? I'm sitting there, and I was thinking about all the series. I even was talking about throwing Badgie in there. I mean, and then so I was thinking about all of the different shows, but when I looked at the characters that I was thinking of and thinking about the villainousness of them, I'll go with it. They just all happen to be DS9. Maybe DS9 is just an evil show. I don't know, but I'm good with it. I'm happy with those choices.
Your face is evil. This is a good point to take a break and do some commerce and some business with America. After the Fansets spot, we'll have my picks. But for now, let's do a brief transition and we'll talk about the greatest pins in the world.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I was grooving out there to more 80s. Garcia's in an 80s mood today. You know, no one here on this stream has really ever seen Garcia. So if you just picture Garcia from Criminal Minds, you'll be doing great.
All right.
Dan, of course, we have to take this opportunity, as we do every week, to thank our friends, our family at Fansets for being the presenting sponsor, not only of Trek Geeks, but also of this here fine live stream Thursday Night Geeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Family is a great way to put it, man. They are our family. We love them. We love talking about them every single week. They have over 500 officially licensed, I may say, Star Trek pins. They're all over at fansets.com right now. They got new stuff every single month, and tonight is no exception. Right now at fansets.com, you can pick up the latest, the brand new Ensign. Let's go with the Starfleet Medical Academy.
Sorry, I got them in the wrong order.
That's all right. It's right now. It's the Starfleet Academy medical logo, and what I like to call memento mori form. That's what I'm going to go with whenever we see these from now on, because of
just
course,
larger.
Just larger. Yep. Great detail. I've always liked the Starfleet medical logo. So that's available right now at fansets.com. That's brand new. Also from Star Trek Lower Decks, you can get the beautiful and amazing Ensign Barnes. She is now available right over at fansets.com. Another great character from Star Trek Lower Decks. And Bill, we have yet another beautiful Delta from the motion picture. These Deltas are giving Future Imperfect a run for their money, I think.
They really are.
They really are. This is the gray colored motion picture security Delta, and that is now available in pin and magnet form. You guessed it, right over there at fansets.com.
That is truly amazing. I love all these. I actually just got an order from fansets.com, a metric ton of pins. Of course, I ordered before they dropped these. So there's going to be another envelope on its way to North Carolina very, very soon. I can assure you that.
Very
nice. Of course, everyone, you know what I'm going to say next. Get Ensign Barnes and get the Starfleet medical pin and get the security Delta. Put them in your cart along with a whole bunch of other stuff. And of course, at checkout, use the special discount code TrekGeeks for 10% off your entire order from fansets.com. That's Trek Geeks in all capital letters, no spaces, and you'll get 10% off. And of course, don't forget, if you order more than $30 of stuff on fansets.com, you will automatically get what, Dan?
I'm thinking that you're going to get free shipping in the United States.
Free shipping in the good old US of A.
I do listen to you.
What?
Fansets. Our pins have character. And we thank our friends at Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of Thursday Night Geeks.
Oh, yeah.
Bye-bye. Look at him. There you go.
Oh, it ended. Sorry. My bad.
You go.
I got a little caught up in it there. Well, I've already been out around town in my underwear, so
very nice.
You know, Ross brings up a good point. Fansets has got to be inching closer to 600 pins by now. We should actually get a count.
I think
it
is. I checked with them not too long ago to see if they'd broken 500, and they had. So yeah, they're probably getting close, which is good. That just means more pins to buy.
When they started with us, I think they had 200 pins.
Yeah.
And that was like 9 years ago.
Yep. So yeah, I'm thinking they're probably pretty. I mean, hell, they got 500 pins just from Future Imperfect. So
Well, Dan, now we're going to take a look at my top 5
Yeah.
greatest villains. My calculus for this was pretty easy. I looked for the ones that potentially posed the greatest threat to um, a significant character or to humanity itself.
Okay.
And I choose those words very carefully. Some of my picks are not going to be popular, and I'm fine with it because they're my picks. Everybody
right.
else has theirs, and that's the best part. So I think I'm going to go ahead and kick it off here and bring up my number 5.
Number
And my
5.
number 5 pick is Khan.
There he is. I knew he was going to show up somewhere of somebody's list. Yep.
Khan Noonien Singh, genetic Superman, of course, from the 1990s. Thought out by Kirk and company in the original Enterprise in the TOS episode Space Seed. But obviously comes back after exile on SETI Alpha 5 to wreak havoc. This is Kirk's greatest foe. You know, when he comes into Kirk's life again at a time where, you know, Kirk is grappling with the fact he's getting older. You know, can he still do this? You know, am I too old? You know, that kind of thing. Kirk is feeling his years, and he feels vulnerable more so than ever before. And plus Khan now has a weapon in the Genesis device that literally could rewrite an entire planet. Just imagine if he uses it on Earth. Okay. So I see that, you know, that's why Khan is kind of at my number 5. He is one of the greatest all-time villains in Star Trek. He is in what is arguably by many people the best of the Star Trek movies. And that's my pick.
I like the pick. He is. This is what's interesting. You said it, and he wasn't on my list because I didn't see him as a greater threat to. You mentioned greater threat to humanity as a whole. Yes, what would happen if he had the Genesis device and used it on Earth? But would that real? Do we really think that he would have done that to his own planet? That I don't know. But he was Kirk's greatest foe, and that's a little bit different, I think, in terms of overall danger when we're looking at a villain. I've always found Khan to be one-dimensional. He has a huge problem with Kirk because he, as said in Star Trek 2, he blames Kirk for the death of his wife, and that's what drives everything with him in Star Trek 2. In Space Seed, that had nothing to do with it. It was Space Seed. He was just, you know, the genetically engineered crazy man from the late 90s. But it's not. I'm not saying it's a bad pick. I knew that Khan was going to be in there, but I've never put him that high up in a list in terms of greatest villains when we're looking at villain as an overall definition.
What Khan wanted most was to tame a world. He failed in the 90s because chaos broke out. So now he has this ultimate weapon. And what better way to rule the earth than to reboot it with the Genesis device? He can tame this world because now he is the authority. He is the strongest person, and he can populate it how he sees fit. And I think that is a great threat to humanity.
Okay.
I think he absolutely would wipe out the entire population of Earth if it meant he would rule it, because he's that sadistic.
Okay. Interesting. I've never thought of it like that, but no, that's a good take on it. Kind of like a Hippocrates Noah look, kind of, when you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, why didn't I pick him? Oh my God.
I don't, because you're stupid. So that's my number 5 pick, and that kind of shows you where I'm going from here.
Yep. Okay. Before you get to your number 4 pick, do me a favor, bring up Dave Jenner's comment, because I was going to say something. I want to say something about it. Just Dave Jenner, that the TNG conspiracy episode was the one that got me. I almost put that as one of my top 5 because we found out anything else about them except for in the books. They had the potential of being really big. The reason I didn't put it is because we never heard anything about them again, but I thought about it. Because that whole thing of what's going on in the episodes dealing up to conspiracy, they were doing kind of what the Dominion was doing in Deep Space Nine with infiltration and stuff like that.
or like the Borg in Star Trek Picard.
There you go. Yeah.
And plus, they're not very big. They're very wee. Damn. Like they go right in your mouth.
Yeah, and they still little thing out of the back end there.
Poor Commander Remick. I mean,
yeah,
he was misunderstood. He was misunderstood.
They see peaceful coexistence
with your people. So that's going to take me to my number 4 pick. And my number 4, I actually struggled with this one for a while. And of course, it's the Dominion.
Okay, yay.
Yay! Dan's like, Deep Space Nine, Deep Space Nine. The Dominion pose a supreme threat to the Alpha Quadrant, and they would have beaten, Earth and the Federation were it not for the Romulan involvement. That particular element shows that they are not only stronger than the Federation, they're more devious than the Federation, and they pose probably the greatest threat to our way of life because, as you said, they're everywhere, right?
Yep.
They're able to blend in. They're able to, get into the things that are, our everyday life and make incremental changes, kind of like Soren in Star Trek Generations, that awful movie.
Oh,
that send the after effects greater in scope later on.
Yeah.
By making minor changes now, they have a much bigger effect down the road. So, I mean, you talked about the Dominion very well. Whether it's the female changeling or the Jem'Hadar or the Wayuns, I think that they are part of the same three-headed monster of sorts. And I think that's what makes them especially dangerous.
Exactly. And isn't it amazing how different each one of those groups are portrayed as part of the Dominion? It's amazing to really look at the differences between that caste system that the founders have set up.
Yeah.
And it just has so much complexity to it, which is another reason why I think they're such a great villain. That's a good pick, man. I like it.
And they're so devious too, because if you think about it, the Jem'Hadar aren't just cannon fodder. They're enslaved. They are created genetically to be soldiers, and they have no other outcome. They will die, whether it's from a lack of white or in battle or by the hand of their masters. They will die. They have no freedom. They never will. So I think that they are especially devious. They absolutely pose one of the greatest threats to the Alpha Quadrant and Starfleet and the Federation. And that's kind of why they're at my number 4.
I like it. I'm glad that they made the top 5 for you, man.
Well, thanks, buddy.
Dominion. Go Dominion.
I know. Dan's like, Dominion. So in that case, let's go to my number 3.
Boy, we're getting into the nitty-gritty now, man.
Yeah. Tell me about it. My number 3.
Oh, my. It's
going to be a controversial pick. Gabriel Lorca.
I'm thinking Mirror Universe version, right?
Well, that's the only Lorca we know.
Yes.
Because we've never seen Prime Lorca.
Yep. I love this pick, man. I think it's great.
If you look at the threat that he poses to the Federation during that time, especially during a time of war, Gabriel Lorca he's an incendiary person. He is a huge threat from within. He's got other motives. He could not care one iota about Starfleet winning the war against the Klingons. He cares about, getting back to his mirror universe. He is a bad man. Plus, he has absolutely no morals or compunction. He will kill anyone in his way. He will torture anyone within an inch of their life. This is a bad dude. And he put the threat he poses, not just to the crew of the Discovery, but also to Starfleet, I think is mammoth.
And he's so good at the beginning, completely pulling the wool over everybody's eyes, because you don't know anything about what's really going on until that one episode where he causes that last jump to be a little bit different. Then you see that mirror universe, but he is good at keeping things at the level they need to be until they need to escalate. I think this is a good pick, man. I really like it. It's I'm sure people are like, but I don't. I'm good with it. I like it. Good one.
Well, it's all because he wants to take over the Empire and dethrone Emperor Georgiou.
Right.
And
of course,
yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, of course, Jason Isaacs. Oh, I mean, he's so good, in just about everything he does. But he's fantastic as Lorca. I just wish we could have seen some
Yeah,
prime Lorca at some
I
point.
know.
Yeah, we never did get to see that, but yeah, good pick.
Yeah, it's funny because he was recently in season 3 of The White Lotus on HBO, and he has kind of a southern accent in that show because his character is from North Carolina, and I'm like, that is not this character. That is Gabriel Lorca. He's gone back in time to
That's
this resort in Thailand.
I have to watch it. I know it gets good. It gets good rating. I have to check that out.
And plus, this is a great point. Thank you, Joel.
Oh,
Only
true.
evil people crush fortune cookies like that. Who does that? Madmen. That's who.
Madmen crush fortune cookies.
Yeah, I know. You take the wrapper off it, you break it in half.
Yep.
So you have
Take a little paper out.
Complete pieces. You don't just
Exactly.
smash the damn thing.
And supposedly his family was involved in it. He's so wrong on so many levels.
So many levels. But yeah, Lorca is just I feel like he doesn't bubble up enough on lists like this because he is that bad a person because he has no good in him.
Yeah. It's funny. Both of us had trouble with one spot on our list.
Yeah.
I had a problem with number 4. Couldn't figure out what I wanted to do for, and you had a problem with number 3. Interesting.
Yeah.
But you had a great pick though, man. Very good.
Thank you. Well, in which case, wrong one.
Whoa,
Let's go this way.
Don't scare me like that.
It does look better this way. When you can not see Dan Davidson, but just hear him. That's going to take me to my number 4 pick. I don't think this is going to be a huge surprise, but Gul Dukat. For many of the reasons you cite. The man was responsible for essentially running a giant concentration camp in space.
Right.
They can call it a mining operation. They can call it a work camp. Let's be honest about what it was. It was a concentration camp. Maybe space Hitler is the wrong term. Maybe he's space Goebbels.
Right.
But in any event, this is a man who is rotten to the core and cares nothing about anything except scaling the ladder of power to become the head of Cardassia.
Yep.
He thinks his way is the way, and he doesn't care how many worthless Bajorans, his words not mine, get in the way for him to accomplish his task. So he's vile.
The writers have never shied away from the fact that the Cardassians and what they did to Bajor was supposed to be a direct relation to Nazi Germany. And the way that they are able to do that in the storyline and then throw this one particular character into the head of that whole part of the history of Cardassia is what makes this character so great. And such a good villain.
Absolutely. And like you said, Mark Alimo plays it with perfection.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
By the time we get to Waltz and, he is totally off his rocker, it absolutely shows. You can see that he has progressed to that point, and everything from there on in is nothing but madness. His character is very Shakespearean. His character he's completely unsympathetic at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I have him at number 2. I almost put the Dominion over him, but I think that based on the sheer loss of Bajoran life, I had to put Gul Dukat at number 2.
The one thing I never liked with Gul Dukat, what happened is I wish that he had not been killed off, because his character has so much. There's so much more that probably we could have seen with his craziness, but his death was kind of a cheapy death for me.
I don't think so. I think it had to happen that way.
I don't disagree with that, but I mean, it's like, I can't think of, there's a great example, like example of everybody wanted Cersei in Game of Thrones to just die in the worst way possible because she was so evil and so bad, and we wanted to see her suffer so much, and we didn't. A building fell on her, and that was it. I wanted to see.
Didn't a giant rock fall on her or something?
Yeah, the whole building fell on her and Jamie.
That's right.
I wanted to see ridiculous amounts of pain and everything when Gul Dukat died, and we really didn't see that. yes, he's with the pirates, and that's not going to be a walk in the park. But I would have loved to have seen a really big moment, like Conspiracy. What we saw in Conspiracy back in TNG days, like something like that would have been amazing.
Well, but I mean, if you think about it, Deep Space Nine is all about darkness and light throughout the whole
Yeah,
series.
true.
You know, in order to have the emissary meet his destiny, that's the way Dukat had to go out, especially once he became inhabited by the Pa-wraith.
Yeah.
That was that was the only way he was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
So and it had to be Cisco that did it. So I mean, it's fitting, I guess, you know, for want of a better word. But I mean, you can't ask for a better portrayal of a character in Star Trek than Mark
That's
Alamo.
pretty awesome that one character gets number 1 and number 2 on 2 different lists.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love
my
it.
number one character is going to draw some ire, and that is the Borg in all their
The
forms
Borg.
through the entire spectrum of Star Trek. And here is my impassioned defense. People like to say that the Borg are overused, and I submit that they are not. The Borg are not overused any more than the Joker is overused in Batman. They're not overused any more than Lex Luthor is overused in Superman, you know, or, you know, Blofeld in James Bond, or any great hero villain story. The Borg are the ultimate threat to humanity, not just because they assimilate, but because of what they take away. They take away every experience of being human. Um, Personality, individuality, diversity, um, emotion, you name it. They remove every piece of humanity until a mindless automaton is left. And I think there is no sadder end of a human existence than that one. When you consider that they have destroyed countless worlds over their time, you know, since before they ever met Picard, and even after, they're responsible for the deaths and the assimilation of millions, probably billions of people, making them one of the worst threats in the galaxy. And what is it Picard calls them in First Contact? Their most implacable enemy. Um, they are the greatest threat the Federation has ever faced. And then in Picard, when they play the long con, brilliant.
Oh.
You know, okay, we'll sit back. Not a problem. Yeah, you beat us. Yeah, thanks again. Good luck. And then they wait. They twiddle their thumbs until the right time and then pose an even greater threat because they've already assimilated everything. They just need to flip the switch.
Yeah.
So to that end, I think that the Borg are the greatest villain of all time. They've never been fan service. They've never been overused because they are Picard's greatest threat and Starfleet's greatest threat and the greatest threat to humanity itself.
I can't disagree with it. I can't disagree with anything you said, man. I think part of the reason why maybe they weren't higher on my list is because I just don't love hating them as much as I love hating or hate loving or whatever you want to call it about my number 2 and number 1 picks. But no, that great, awesome picks. And isn't it interesting? We talk about the Borg, and they would have succeeded in their long con if not for the very simple Enterprise D. When you think about what actually happened in that finale, and if it wasn't for the Enterprise D not being connected to the entire fleet, they would have won. So it was all because of the Enterprise D that what you say is the greatest threat, that humanity was not completely assimilated because of that ship.
It's because somebody fired up a Windows 3.1 workstation in a Windows 11 world. That's what we're talking about.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, but even if you look at, you know, the way the Borg, you know, dealt with Janeway and Voyager, you know, there were advances, there were retreats, you know, just like in First Contact. The whole time, the Borg are the supreme threat. You know, whether, you know, we think that they were kind of, you know, emasculated or not in Voyager, they still are the greatest enemy that crew ever faced because they were the one that was around the longest. They had the most space. So that's kind of where my head's at.
Let me ask you this, and this might be a hot take also. I have never really liked, appreciated, been okay with the whole idea of the Borg Queen. I think the Borg Queen took away some of the um, menacing of the Borg because it gave them the tiniest sliver of individuality with just one person. And I just have never been like okay, the Borg are this just gigantic, ominous threat that everyone fears, but yet it's just this one person controls all of that. I've never been able to really grasp onto her as much as maybe others have.
I actually have no problem with the Borg Queen. I think of her like the queen of a hive of bees. The Borg have drones, they have workers, and they have a queen that is responsible for the health of the hive. I think for first contact, they needed somebody who could
Oh yeah.
kind of put Picard at risk again. And I
Yeah.
don't think that the drones themselves could do that.
Yeah.
I think they needed somebody who could, get under Picard's skin. And I think that that's why she fills that role. But if I look at the role of the Queen throughout Star Trek with what they've done in Voyager and Star Trek Picard, I think it's made her a much more layered and sinister character, quite honestly.
Okay.
But I get why some people just don't like the Queen or just don't like the concept. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. If I'm looking at being assimilated by a bunch of drones coming at me with like mechanical arms and red laser lights, and then I see the Borg Queen looking good and she's having a good time and have a nice silver spine and everything like that. So I'm more scared with the drones, but that's just me.
and Ross, you're right. Locutus did give the Borg that first hit of individuality, which is why I think they needed a character that had some to be, to go toe to toe with him.
Nice job, Ross.
And by the way, thanks to everybody who called out, great lists and great choices. Much appreciated all over the place. But those are our top 5. I love your list, buddy. I
love yours, man.
It's a great one. So
we had some similarities. We had some extras, each one of us. So good. Yeah, good list. But you said it before. We've talked about it all the time. Whatever your list is out there, whatever Burley's is, whatever Dave's is, they're all awesome because they're your list, like you said earlier, Bill.
Do you have any honorable mentions before we go?
The Dowd.
I'm gonna say the Gorn.
I was gonna say the Gorn. Yep. So that's one.
Maybe
Boy.
I've always loved the Vidians because of the threat they posed. I don't like the way Voyager treated them, but I love the Vidians as a concept.
Okay.
And I have to throw a shout out to my, the Klingon Prime Core.
Very good choice. Yep.
What about you?
I would say, oh gosh, lore, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Possibility. Also, this is going to be kind of a weird one, but I just love it.
The Kazon?
General Chang. General Chang, Species 8472. They all brought, they brought a little bit of something that was a little different, something we hadn't, if you've got an alien, if you've got a villain that the Borg are scared of, you should pay attention to that. So those would probably be a couple of my honorable mentions. I was thinking maybe the Herodian, but no, I just don't. That kind of a society can't work like that. So yeah,
no, I agree with that, and I don't like ultimately what played out with the Herodian. I think that it was just bogus.
Yeah,
Lore is a great shout out. I like that. Dan, that's going to do it for this episode of Thursday Night Geeks. We thank everybody for joining us. If you're watching this on Memorex, thank you for watching. We appreciate it. Please click that like and subscribe button. So that people become aware of it. And feel free to share this episode amongst your friends and other Trekkies, because we absolutely would appreciate that. Next time, Dan, we're going to show tape of your colonoscopy. I think that's going to be exciting.
We can tell a story about how I accused the nurse of being on the bridge of my ship when I woke up from my colonoscopy.
I think we did that in the Section 31 episode, didn't we?
I think we did. Yep, that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But no, we don't need to show that video.
We do it this week for Thursday Night Geeks, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on this same Bat channel. Until then, live long and prosper. Have a great night.
Thanks for joining in, everybody.